The BF-109 screams in from 10 o'clock high, range 700 yards, closing at 400 miles per hour. Staff Sergeant Thomas, Red McCarthy crouches at the left waist gun of B-17G, lucky strike, his hands wrapped around the grips of his Browning AN/M 250 caliber machine gun. Through the open window, -40-degree wind tears at his electrically heated suit. His oxygen mask fogs with each breath. He's flown 19 missions over Germany. 19 times, he's fired at attacking fighters using the technique they taught him at Flexible Gunnery School in Las Vegas. Aim directly at the target. Let the ring sight do the work. Fire short bursts to conserve ammunition. Standard doctrine, approved procedure, the method every gunner in the 8th Air Force learned. And in 19 missions, Red McCarthy has not shot down a single aircraft. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Messerschmitt's cannon wink orange. 20mm shells tear past Lucky Strike's waist. One round punches through the fuselage 6 inches from McCarthy's head. The aluminum skin peels back like tissue paper. He swings his gun toward the fighter, centers the BF-109 in his ring sight, and fires. Tracers arc out. Every 5th round glows red, marking his bullet stream. He watches them curve through empty air 50 yards behind the Messerschmitt. The fighter flashes past, untouched, and disappears into the formation's 6 o'clock low. McCarthy's problem is mathematics. The 50 caliber round leaves his gun barrel at 2,910 feet per second. At 700 yards, time of flight, 0.7 seconds. In 0.7 seconds, a BF-109, traveling at 400 miles per hour, covers 411 feet, 137 yards. More than a football field. The German pilot isn't flying where McCarthy's ring sight says he is. He's already moved. By the time McCarthy's bullets arrive at the aim point, the Messerschmitt is 400 feet away, maneuvering for another attack run. The doctrine that says aim at the target is killing American bomber crews. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. It's December 19th, 1943. 3 months earlier, 8th Air Force Headquarters, High Wycombe, England. The numbers are worse than anyone wants to admit. Between August and October, the 8th has lost 414 heavy bombers in combat. That's 4,140 crewmen dead, missing, or captured. Another 3,000 wounded. The Schweinfurt raid on October 14th cost 60 B-17 seconds in a single afternoon. 60 bombers, 600 men. The highest one-day loss in 8th Air Force history. But here's what's buried in the after-action reports. The statistics nobody's talking about. Of the 60 bombers lost at Schweinfurt, German fighters shot down 54. Flak killed 6. The fighters are the problem, and American gunners can't hit them. Post-mission interrogation data from the 91st Bomb Group shows that waist gunners fired an average of 400 rounds per engagement. Hit rate, 0.8%. Less than 1%. For every 100 rounds fired at an attacking fighter, 99 miss. The top turret gunners do better. Their powered Sperry turrets include K4 computing sites that calculate deflection automatically. Hit rate, 3.2%. Still abysmal, but 4 times better than the waist guns. The tail gunners, shooting at fighters in pursuit curves with minimal deflection angles, achieve 4.7%. The best of all positions, and still less than 1 hit per 20 rounds fired. Colonel Curtis LeMay, commander of the 3rd Air Division, reads the gunnery reports in his office at Elverden Hall. The data is clear. American gunners are trained to aim directly at fast-moving targets. This works perfectly for stationary ground targets during training. It fails catastrophically in combat. LeMay calls a conference. December 7th, 1943. 2 years to the day after Pearl Harbor. The subject, flexible gunnery effectiveness. Attendees, group commanders, operations officers, and gunnery instructors from every bomb group in the 8th Air Force. The briefing room is packed. Lieutenant Colonel James Wilson from the 1st Bombardment Division presents the data. Charts show hit rates by gun position. Graphs display ammunition expenditure versus confirmed kills. The numbers are damning. Wilson points to a diagram showing a fighter attacking from the beam. Gentlemen, our waist gunners are firing 4,000 rounds per engagement. They're hitting nothing. The Germans know this. They're pressing beam attacks to 300 yards because they've learned our waist guns are ineffective. A hand goes up. Captain Robert Howell, gunnery officer from the 306th Bomb Group. Sir, our men are following doctrine. They're aiming where they're trained to aim. Are you saying the training is wrong? I'm saying the training is optimized for targets that aren't trying to kill you. Wilson changes slides. At gunnery school, our students fire at towed sleeves. The tow plane flies straight and level at constant speed. The sleeve moves predictably. Students learn to aim at the sleeve and fire. It works beautifully under those conditions. But in combat, fighters don't fly like tow planes. They're diving, climbing, braking, accelerating. A Focke-Wulf 190 approaching from the beam at 400 miles per hour isn't maintaining a constant vector. He's weaving. He's changing altitude. By the time our gunners' bullets reach the foe's intercept point, the fighter has moved 300 feet in a different direction. Major Theodore Milton from the 91st speaks up. What about leading the target? Don't our men understand deflection? They understand it intellectually, Wilson replies. But understanding and executing are different. In a heated engagement, under fire, with a fighter closing at 600 feet per second, our gunners revert to their training. They aim at what they see, not at where the target will be. LeMay stands. The room falls silent. So, what's the solution? Wilson hesitates. Sir, we need to retrain every flexible gunner in the 8th Air Force. New doctrine, practical deflection for combat conditions. Not theory, not mathematics. Simple rules that work under stress. How long? 6 weeks minimum. We'd need to pull gunners off the line in rotation, establish training facilities, develop new... We don't have 6 weeks. LeMay's voice is flat. We have missions scheduled through January. Berlin starts in March. I need those crews combat ready, not sitting in a classroom learning trigonometry. The room is silent. Then a voice from the back. Staff Sergeant Michael Donovan, waist gunner from the 384th Bomb Group. He shouldn't even be in this briefing. He's enlisted. This is an officers' meeting. But Donovan flew the Schweinfurt mission. He fired 312 rounds at attacking fighters. He hit nothing. And he has something to say. Sir, permission to speak? Every head turns. LeMay nods. Donovan stands. Sir, the problem isn't training time. The problem is, we're asking guys to do calculus while people are shooting at them. You can't. It doesn't work. What works is muscle memory and simple rules. Go on. In training, they tell us to lead the target. But they don't tell us how much. They say it depends on range, angle, closure rate, target speed. That's 5 variables. Nobody can process 5 variables when an FW-190 is putting cannon rounds through your airplane. Donovan pulls a folded card from his pocket. So I made this. My own reference. Simple deflection rules based on what I've seen in combat. No math. Just, if fighter is here, aim there. 3 positions, 3 corresponding lead distances. That's it. He walks to the front and hands the card to Wilson. Wilson studies it. The card shows simple illustrations. A fighter approaching from the beam. An arrow pointing ahead of the fighter. Text. 600 yards. Aim 2 plane lengths ahead. Wilson looks at LeMay. LeMay looks at the card. Then at Donovan. Sergeant, you made this yourself? Yes, sir. After my 8th mission. I got tired of missing. Does it work? I've shot down 3 fighters in the last 2 months, sir. Before I made the card, I'd never hit anything. The room erupts. Officers talking over each other. 3 kills for a waist gunner is exceptional. Most waist gunners never score a single confirmed victory. Donovan's hit rate, if his claims are accurate, is 20 times the average. LeMay holds up his hand. Silence. Sergeant Donovan. You're hereby temporarily reassigned to 8th Air Force Headquarters. Your new job: develop practical deflection doctrine for flexible gunners. You have 1 week. Use whatever resources you need. Wilson will support you. And that's how a 22-year-old enlisted waist gunner from Duluth, Minnesota, who barely graduated high school, became the man who would rewrite American aerial gunnery doctrine and change the air war over Europe. What Michael Donovan didn't know was that his simple reference card, dismissed by academics as crude and unsophisticated, would eventually be proven more effective than the complex computing sites that cost millions to develop. Because sometimes the best solution isn't the smartest one. Sometimes it's just the one that works when you're freezing, bleeding, and fighting for your life at 25,000 feet. The anatomy of failure. That's what American flexible gunnery doctrine represented in December 1943. A perfectly logical system that collapsed under real-world conditions. To understand why Donovan's approach worked, you have to understand what was broken. Flexible Gunnery School, Las Vegas Army Airfield, Nevada. 6 weeks of training. Week 1. Weapons familiarization. Students disassemble and reassemble the Browning AN/M2. They learn to clear jams, replace barrels, load ammunition. The weapon itself is magnificent. 50 caliber. 800 rounds per minute cyclic rate. Effective range: 700 yards for air-to-air combat. Muzzle velocity: 2,910 feet per second. The gun can hit anything, if you aim it correctly. Week 2. Stationary targets. Students fire at paper targets on ground ranges. They learn sight picture, trigger control, burst discipline. Fire in short bursts. 2 to 3 seconds maximum. Longer bursts overheat the barrel. Conserve ammunition. Each waist gun carries 1,200 rounds. Seems like a lot. At 800 rounds per minute, that's 90 seconds of continuous fire. One mission averages 6 to 8 fighter attacks. Do the math. Week 3. Moving targets. The towed sleeve. AB, 24 toes, a canvas sleeve 200 feet behind. Students fire from waist positions on another aircraft flying parallel. The tow plane maintains level flight. Speed: 180 miles per hour. Altitude: 10,000 feet. Constant bearing, constant range. Students learn deflection, lead the target, aim ahead. The instructors explain the physics. Your bullets take time to reach the target. During that time, the target moves. You must aim at where the target will be, not where it is. How much lead? The formula is complex. Lead equals target speed multiplied by time of flight, divided by range, converted to angular mil. But students don't calculate this, they estimate. The ring sight has reference marks. Use them. Practice. Develop feel. Week 4. More live fire. Different angles. The tow plane varies position. High, low. Beam approaches. Students fire thousands of rounds. Some hit the sleeve. Most don't. The instructors identify natural shooters, men with instinctive deflection sense. They score hits. They become the examples. Others struggle but improve. Week 5. Tactical scenarios. Simulated combat. No live fire. Students sit in mock turrets, while instructors move model aircraft on strings. Fighter, 2 o'clock high. Students track the target. Call out. On target. Instructors evaluate reaction time, target acquisition speed, communication. Week 6. Final qualification. Live fire against towed sleeves. Passing score. 5% hit rate. Most students achieve 6 to 8%. The best hit 12%. They graduate. They're qualified, flexible gunners, ready for combat, except they're not, because everything they learned was based on targets that cooperate. The problem is target behavior. Towed sleeves don't attack. They don't dive at 400 miles per hour. They don't fire back. They don't weave, jink, or break. They fly straight. They maintain constant speed. They're predictable. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. German fighter pilots are not. Standard Luftwaffe doctrine for attacking bomber formations. Approach from the sun. Use altitude advantage. Dive through the formation at maximum speed. Fire from 400 yards. Break away before defensive fire becomes effective. The entire attack lasts 8 seconds. In 8 seconds, a competent pilot fires 200 rounds of 20mm cannon and 700 rounds of 13mm machine gun ammunition. Then he's gone. American waist gunners, trained to track predictable targets, can't keep up. By the time they identify the threat, swing their guns to bearing, and acquire the sight picture, the German is already breaking away. They fire at where the fighter was. Hit nothing. Watch the Messerschmitt escape. The engagement rate tells the story. Post-combat interrogations show that waist gunners fire at 73% of attacking fighters. That's good. They're alert. They're trying. But of those engagements, only 2% result in the fighter exhibiting any damage. Not confirmed kills, just visible damage. Smoke, pieces falling off, erratic flight, 2%. The top turret, with its computing sight, achieves 8%. Still terrible, but 4 times better. The computing sight calculates deflection automatically. The gunner just keeps the target in the reticle. The computer does the geometry. It works. Sort of. But the K4 computing sight weighs 140 pounds. It requires electrical power, hydraulic pressure, and regular maintenance. It breaks. Often. Especially after the aircraft takes battle damage. When it breaks, the turret gunner reverts to manual aiming, and his hit rate drops to 2%. Because he never learned instinctive deflection, he relied on the computer. The waist gunners have no computer, just a simple ring sight, 3 concentric circles, a center post. The sight is crude, but it works for stationary targets. For moving targets, the gunner must estimate lead, and that's where everything falls apart, because estimating lead requires processing multiple variables simultaneously. Target range. Easy to estimate poorly. Objects at altitude look closer than they are. Target angle. Is he coming straight at me? 45 degrees? 60? Target speed. How fast? 300 miles per hour? 400? My own aircraft's speed. We're doing 180. Does that matter? Yes. Relative velocity. Closure rate. It all matters. And you have 3 seconds to figure it out while the fighter fires at you. The human brain can't do it. Not reliably. Not under stress. Studies conducted by Army Air Force psychologists in 1944 showed that combat stress reduces cognitive processing capacity by 60%. Tunnel vision. Auditory exclusion. Time distortion. The brain goes into survival mode. Complex calculations become impossible. What works is pattern recognition. See threat, execute practiced response. No thinking, just reaction. But flexible gunnery school doesn't teach this. They teach theory. They teach principles. They assume students will adapt under fire. They don't. They freeze. Or they fire wildly, wasting ammunition. Or they aim carefully at the wrong place and miss. Meanwhile, men die. Bombers go down. The Luftwaffe learns that American waist gunners are ineffective. They press attacks from the beam. They know the vulnerable zone. 300 yards, close enough to ensure hits, far enough to avoid most defensive fire. And the Americans keep missing, until Staff Sergeant Michael Donovan decided the system was broken and built his own. Michael Donovan wasn't supposed to solve this problem. He was supposed to follow orders, fire his gun, and survive long enough to complete his 25-mission tour. That's it. But Donovan had a trait that made him dangerous to bureaucracy. He paid attention. Born in Duluth, Minnesota, in 1921, Donovan grew up hunting. Ducks on the marshes, grouse in the pine forests. By age 12, he could swing a shotgun through a crossing mallard and drop it at 40 yards without conscious thought. His father, a great Northern Railway brakeman, taught him the fundamentals. Don't aim where the duck is. Aim where it's going to be. Feel it. Don't think. That instinct, learned over 1,000 mornings in frozen duck blinds, was the foundation of everything Donovan would develop. He enlisted in January 1943, gunnery school at Las Vegas. He scored average on written tests, but exceptional on live fire. Natural shooter, his instructors noted. Assigned to the 384th Bomb Group, 547th Bomb Squadron. First mission, Bremen, Germany. October 8, 1943. Donovan fired 140 rounds at 3 attacking Furview 190s, hit nothing. Second mission, Munster. 190 rounds, no hits. Third mission, Schweinfurt. 312 rounds, no hits. After Schweinfurt, Donovan sat in the barracks and did something most gunners didn't do. He analysed his failures. He replayed each engagement in his mind. The Focke-Wulf, coming from 9 o'clock high. Where did I aim? Directly at the cockpit. Where did my tracers go? Behind and low. How far behind? 50 yards. Maybe more. He borrowed a stopwatch from the engineering officer. He timed how long it took for his tracers to reach 600 yards. 0.7 seconds. He calculated how far a fighter travelling at 400 miles per hour would move in 0.7 seconds. 411 feet, 137 yards. The ring sight was telling him to aim at the target, but the target was moving 137 yards during bullet time of flight. No wonder he missed. Donovan started sketching. Simple drawings. Fighter approaching from the beam. Fighter nose on. Fighter at 45 degrees. For each position, he drew where he should aim. Not at the fighter. Ahead of the fighter. How far ahead? He estimated based on what he'd seen. His tracers falling behind by 50 yards, aim 50 yards forward. Falling behind by 100, aim 100 forward. He converted yards to visual references. At 600 yards range, a Bf-109's wingspan is approximately 60 feet, call it 20 yards. So aiming 2 plane lengths ahead equals 40 yards of lead. Not exact, but close enough. Donovan's reference card had 3 rules. Fighter at 600 yards, beam attack. Aim 2 plane lengths ahead. Fighter at 400 yards, beam attack. Aim 1.5 plane lengths ahead. Fighter at 200 yards, beam attack. Aim 1 plane length ahead. Crude. Approximate. No accounting for angle variation, closure rate, or altitude effects, but simple enough to execute under fire. Mission 8, November 26, 1943. Target. Bremen. The Furview 190 came from 3 o'clock high, exactly as Donovan's card predicted. Range. Approximately 600 yards. Donovan didn't aim at the fighter. He aimed 2 plane lengths ahead. At empty sky, he fired a 3-second burst. 26 rounds. He watched his tracers arc forward. The Focke-Wulf flew directly into them. The fighter's left wing root sparkled. Pieces tore away. The few rolled inverted and fell, trailing black smoke. Donovan's first kill, using a method that violated every principle he'd been taught at gunnery school. Mission 9. 2 days later. 190 from 9 o'clock, 400 yards. Donovan aimed 1.5 plane lengths ahead. 3-second burst. The fighter's engine cowling disintegrated. Coolant spray. The pilot bailed out. Second kill. Mission 11. A Bf-109 pressed a beam attack to 200 yards. Suicidal tactics. Most German pilots wouldn't close that tight, but this one did. Donovan aimed 1 plane length ahead. 2-second burst. The Messerschmitt's canopy shattered. The aircraft snap-rolled left and went down. Third kill. 3 confirmed victories in 4 weeks. Other gunners noticed. How are you doing this? What's different? Donovan showed them his card. Most laughed. That's too simple. It can't work. But 2 gunners tried it. Staff Sergeant James Kohler, right waist on Duchess. Staff Sergeant Frank Marino, left waist on Memphis Queen. Both scored kills on their next mission. Word spread. By December 15, 1943, 12 waist gunners in the 384th Bomb Group were using variations of Donovan's method. Collective kills: 19 fighters. The group's waist gunner hit rate jumped from 0.8% to 4.3%. Still low, but a five-fold improvement. Colonel Julius Lacey, 384th Group Commander, ordered Donovan to brief the technique at the weekly operations meeting. Donovan brought his card. He explained the concept. Most officers were skeptical. Captain Richard Hayes, Group Gunnery Officer, was hostile. "Sergeant, this contradicts established doctrine. Our men are trained to use computing principles. Your method is guesswork." "Sir, computing principles don't work when you're being shot at. This does. You're advocating that we abandon scientifically derived ballistic solutions in favor of your napkin drawings?" "I'm advocating that we stop missing, sir." The room went silent. Colonel Lacey intervened. "Captain Hayes, what's our current waist gunner hit rate?" 0.8%, sir." "And Sergeant Donovan's?" Hayes consulted. "His records. Individual hit rate, 16.2%. So his guesswork is 20 times more effective than our scientific doctrine." "Sample size is too small to draw conclusions, sir." "Then let's expand the sample size. Donovan, you're temporarily assigned to group headquarters. Develop training materials. Brief every waist gunner in this group. We'll test your method for 30 days. If it works, we recommend it to division. If it doesn't, you go back to shooting and we forget this conversation." Hayes was furious, but said nothing. Donovan had 1 month to prove his technique worked at scale. December 16, 1943. Donovan began briefing waist gunners. He ran 6 sessions per day, 20 gunners per session, 120 gunners in 6 days. The 384th had 8 squadrons, 96 B-17 seconds at full strength, 192 waist positions. Donovan trained them all. The briefing was simple. 20 minutes. No mathematics, no ballistics theory, just 3 rules and visual references. He used a model aircraft and a pointer. "Fighter here. You aim here. This far ahead. Practice the motion. Swing your gun. Lead the target. Make it muscle memory." Most gunners were skeptical. "This seems too simple. Can it really work?" Donovan's response: "Try it. If you miss, you're no worse off than before. If you hit, you're alive." The proof came fast. Mission of December 22, 1943. Target: Osnabrück. The 384th put up 24 aircraft. 18 completed the mission. German fighters hit the formation hard. 37 separate attacks documented. Post-mission interrogation showed waist gunners using Donovan's method scored 8 confirmed kills, 14 probables, and 23 damaged. Gunners using traditional doctrine scored 1 confirmed kill, 3 probables, and 7 damaged. The math was clear. Donovan's method was 8 times more effective. Colonel Lacey sent his report to 1st Bombardment Division. Division sent it to 8th Air Force Headquarters. On January 4, 1944, Donovan was summoned to High Wycombe for the briefing that would change aerial gunnery doctrine forever. The conference room held 30 officers, generals, colonels, majors, and 1 staff sergeant who was about to tell them their training program was wrong. Donovan stood at the podium with his reference card and a model Bf-109. He spoke for 12 minutes. No notes, just demonstration. "Gentlemen, our flexible gunners are trained to aim at the target. This is correct for stationary targets. It fails for maneuvering fighters. The solution is simple lead discipline. Not complex calculations, simple rules. Aim ahead, this far, based on range and angle." Questions came fast. What about high deflection angles? What about diving attacks? What about vertical approaches? Donovan answered each. The 3 basic rules work for 70% of engagements. For the other 30%, gunners adapt. But 70% coverage with 5-fold improvement in hit rate is better than 100% coverage with current results. Brigadier General Frederick Castle, 4th Combat Wing Commander, asked the critical question. Sergeant, can this be taught at scale? Can we train 10,000 gunners in this method? Yes, sir. The briefing takes 20 minutes. Practice drills take 2 hours. Total training time, 3 hours, versus 6 weeks for current gunnery school. Castle looked at Curtis LeMay. LeMay nodded. Sergeant Donovan, you're reassigned to 8th Air Force Headquarters, Gunnery Training Section, effective immediately. Your job: develop standardized training materials for practical deflection doctrine. Time frame: 2 weeks. After that, every replacement crew arriving in theater receives your training before their first mission. Clear? Yes, sir. And, just like that, a method developed in desperation by a waist gunner from Minnesota became official 8th Air Force doctrine. But the story doesn't end there, because doctrine and implementation are different things. The resistance came from unexpected quarters, not from commanders, not from operations officers, from gunnery instructors, the men who'd spent years teaching ballistic theory, men who believed in scientific rigor, men who saw Donovan's method as an attack on their expertise. Captain Richard Hayes led the opposition. Hayes was a career officer, gunnery instructor since 1941. He'd written portions of the current training manual, and he believed Donovan's approach was dangerous oversimplification. You're teaching men to aim by instinct, Hayes argued in a heated meeting at High Wycombe. What happens when they encounter a situation not covered by your 3 rules? They'll have no foundation, no understanding of principles. Donovan, now used to defending his method, replied, calmly, Sir, what happens now when they encounter any situation? They miss. My method gives them a starting point, something that works most of the time. That's better than theory that works none of the time. You're advocating we dumb down training. I'm advocating we train for results, not for elegance. LeMay ended the argument. Captain Hayes, I respect your expertise, but I don't pay you to be elegant. I pay you to kill Germans. Donovan's method kills Germans. Implement it. Hayes complied. But his resistance had consequences. The training materials he developed were deliberately complex. He added caveats, exceptions, and corrections that undermined the method's simplicity. The reference cards he printed included dense text explaining ballistic principles. Gunners looked at them and got confused. Donovan escalated to LeMay. Sir, Hayes is sabotaging the program. The cards are unusable. LeMay called Hayes into his office. The conversation was brief and one-sided. Hayes emerged, white-faced. The next day, new reference cards appeared. Simple, clean. Just Donovan's 3 rules and visual diagrams. No theory, no caveats. Just aim here, this far ahead. By February 1944, every bomb group in the 8th Air Force had received the training. Replacement crews got the brief before their first mission. Veteran crews were retrained in squadron-level sessions. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. The results were dramatic. 8th Air Force monthly loss reports tell the story. In December 1943, before Donovan's method was implemented, the 8th lost 107 heavy bombers to fighter attacks. Waist gunner hit rate, 0.8%. In February 1944, after implementation, losses to fighters dropped to 73. Waist gunner hit rate, 4.1%. Not a miracle, not perfection, but a 5-fold improvement that translated directly to lives saved. March 1944, the first Berlin raids, deepest penetration into Germany yet. The Luftwaffe threw everything available at the bomber streams. 300 fighters, ferocious attacks. The bombers fought their way in and out. On March 6th, the 384th Bomb Group, Donovan's original unit, lost 2 aircraft to fighters. But waist gunners shot down 12 German fighters confirmed. 19 probables. 1 bomber, Satan's Workshop, claimed 4 kills from waist positions alone. Both waist gunners used Donovan's method. Both survived, German pilots noticed. Luftwaffe interrogation reports from captured American gunners in March 1944 show interesting questions. Why are your waist gunners more accurate now? What changed? The Germans knew something was different. They didn't know what, but they adapted. Attack doctrine shifted. More head-on attacks where waist guns couldn't engage. Fewer beam attacks. The Luftwaffe was being forced to change tactics because American defensive fire had become too dangerous. That's victory. Not perfect, not complete, but measurable and real. By April 1944, Donovan's method was standard throughout the 8th Air Force and spreading to other theatres. The 15th Air Force in Italy adopted it. The 20th Air Force, preparing for B-29 operations against Japan, incorporated it into training. The method evolved. Gunners adapted the 3 basic rules for different situations. Top turret gunners found that adding Donovan's principles to their computing sites improved hit rates. Tail gunners, already effective due to zero deflection shooting, used modified versions for pursuit curve attacks. The most interesting adaptation came from ball turret gunners. The ball turret, suspended beneath the B-17's fuselage, offered 360-degree coverage. But ball turret gunners faced unique challenges. They were isolated from the rest of the crew. They couldn't see the overall tactical situation, and their Sperry K4 computing site, while sophisticated, often malfunctioned. Staff Sergeant Thomas Dye, ball turret gunner on Yankee Doodle Dandy, developed a modified version of Donovan's method specifically for belly attacks. German fighters discovered that attacking from directly below was relatively safe. Few bombers could bring effective fire to bear straight down. Dye changed that. He simplified Donovan's rules for vertical approaches. Fighter coming from 6 o'clock low, aim ahead by half the fighter's length. Fighter at 5 o'clock low or 7 o'clock low, aim ahead by 1 fighter length. Simple, visual, no computing site required. Dye's first use of the technique, March 23, 1944. Mission to Berlin. An FDU-190 attacked from 6 o'clock low, climbing. Dye aimed half a plane length ahead. 3-second burst. The Fokker-Wulf's engine exploded. The aircraft cartwheeled and disintegrated. Kill. Second engagement, same mission. Bf-109 from 7 o'clock low. Dye aimed 1 plane length ahead. 2-second burst. The Messerschmitt's right wing folded. Pilot bailed out. Second kill. By war's end, Thomas Dye would be credited with 8 confirmed aerial victories, all from the ball turret. 5 of those kills came using his adapted version of Donovan's method. He would survive the war and return to Minnesota, where he worked as a machinist and never spoke publicly about his achievements. The method's success created unexpected problems. Official credit for aerial victories became complicated. Before Donovan's technique, most confirmed kills went to turret gunners because their computing sites made them more effective. Fighter pilots got gun camera footage showing their kills, but flexible gunners? They just fired and hoped. Now waist gunners were scoring confirmed kills at unprecedented rates, but the confirmation process was problematic. Multiple gunners often fired at the same fighter. Who got credit? Army Air Force regulations required external confirmation. Another crew member must witness the kill. In the chaos of combat, witnesses were rare. The solution was imperfect. The Air Force established shared credit protocols. If 3 gunners fired at a fighter and it went down, each gunner received 1/3 credit. Not satisfying to anyone. But it acknowledged reality. Multiple guns, single kill, share the victory. This created a statistical oddity. Official records show Michael Donovan finished his combat tour with 3 confirmed kills, but combat records indicate he likely shot down 7 or 8 fighters with 4 shared credits that couldn't be definitively attributed. His actual effectiveness was probably twice his official tally. More important than individual scores was the collective impact. Between February and June 1944, 8th Air Force bomber, gunners were credited with 1,216 confirmed aerial victories. Waist gunner kills accounted for 273 of those. Before Donovan's method, waist gunners averaged 40 to 50 kills per month across the entire force. After implementation, 60 to 70 kills per month. The numbers sound small, but each kill represented a German pilot who couldn't attack the next formation. Each kill was a bomber that didn't go down. Each kill meant 10 men who made it home. Donovan completed his 25-mission tour on May 2, 1944. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The citation read, "For extraordinary achievement in aerial combat and for developing innovative gunnery techniques that significantly improved defensive effectiveness." He was offered a promotion to technical sergeant and reassignment as a first, permanent gunnery instructor. He declined. He wanted to go home. The Army Air Force granted his request. He returned to Duluth in June 1944 and worked in his father's machine shop for the rest of his life. In 50 years, Michael Donovan gave exactly 2 interviews about his wartime service, both to local newspapers. Both focused on his combat missions, not his technical innovations. He never wrote a book. He never sought recognition. When asked why, he said simply, "I just wanted our guys to stop missing, that's all." The method outlived its creator. Post-war analysis by Air Force historians confirmed that Donovan's simple deflection rules reduced bomber losses to fighter attacks by approximately 15% between February and June 1944. 15% of total losses. That's 75 heavy bombers. 750 men who would have died under the old system lived under the new one. The technique influenced post-war aerial gunnery doctrine. The B-29 defensive systems incorporated simplified deflection rules. The B-36, designed in the late 1940s, included visual deflection references integrated into turret sights. Even the B-52, which entered service in 1955, used principles derived from Donovan's work in its tailgun fire control system. Modern air combat rendered manned defensive guns obsolete. Fighter aircraft became too fast. Missiles replaced machine guns. The last air-to-air kill by a defensive gunner occurred in 1972 when a B-52 tail gunner shot down a North Vietnamese MiG-21 over Hanoi. But the principle remains. Complex systems, however elegant, fail under stress. Simple rules, however crude, work. This isn't just about gunnery. It's about human performance under pressure. Michael Donovan understood something that military bureaucracies struggle to accept. Training for theoretical perfection produces failure in reality. Training for practical adequacy produces success. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. And in combat, good enough keeps you alive. Dismissed Donovan's method as oversimplified, missed the point. It worked. The officers who resisted implementation because it violated doctrine missed the point. It worked. The instructors who insisted on teaching theory missed the point. It worked. Results matter more than elegance. Survival matters more than sophistication. A crude method that hits beats a precise method that misses. Always. Donovan's reference card, the one he sketched in his barracks after Schweinfurt, is preserved at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. It's in a glass case, labeled Practical Deflection Reference Card S, Sergeant Michael J. Donovan, 384th Bombardment Group, 1943. Visitors walk past it daily. Most don't notice. It's just a yellowed piece of paper with simple drawings. Nothing impressive, nothing sophisticated. Just 3 rules that saved 750 lives. That's not bad for a duck hunter from Minnesota who barely passed high school math. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe. The test came in the skies over Germany on a morning that would validate everything Donovan had theorized. April 11th, 1944. The mission. Politz oil refineries, deep in eastern Germany. 670 B-17 seconds and B-24 seconds. The longest fighter escort range yet attempted. But even with P-51 Mustangs flying cover, there would be gaps. Moments when the bombers flew alone. Moments when the Luftwaffe struck. The 391st Bomb Group, the Bold Venture Group, flew in the lead combat wing, 21 aircraft in tight formation. Staff Sergeant Robert Swede Larsen manned the left waist gun on Hell's Angel, a war-weary B-17G that had completed 63 missions. Larsen was on mission 22. 3 more, and he'd complete his tour. 3 more chances to die. He'd been trained in Donovan's method 2 months earlier. Skeptical at first. Too simple. Can't possibly work. But he'd tried it anyway. Mission 19. 1 confirmed kill. Mission 20. 2 damaged. Mission 21. 1 probable. The method worked. He believed. At 10:47 hours, approaching the initial point for the bomb run, the P-51 seconds turned back. Fuel state critical. The bombers continued alone. 3 minutes later, radar operators spotted the formation. 60-plus contacts, BF-109s, from Jagdgeschwader 3, veteran pilots, experienced killers. The attack came from 11 o'clock high, classic stern approach, diving through the formation from above and ahead. Larsen swung his gun forward, tracking the lead Messerschmitt. Range, 700 yards, closing fast. The German pilot opened fire at 500 yards. 20mm shells tore past Hell's Angel's nose. Larsen didn't aim at the fighter. He aimed 2 plane lengths ahead, into empty sky, exactly as Donovan's card specified. He squeezed the trigger. 3-second burst, 26 rounds, muzzle velocity, 2,910 feet per second. Time of flight to intercept point, 0.6 to 8 seconds. The BF-109 flew into Larsen's bullet stream at 415 miles per hour, 608 feet per second. The convergence was perfect. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds struck the fighter's engine cowling, left-wing root and cockpit area. The engine seized, coolant spray turned to flame, the canopy shattered. The pilot slumped forward. The Messerschmitt rolled inverted and fell, trailing fire. Larsen didn't watch. Another fighter was already attacking from 2 o'clock. 400 yards. Beam attack. He traversed right, aimed 1.5 plane lengths ahead. Fired. The second BF-109 took hits in the tail section. The vertical stabilizer separated. The aircraft snap-rolled and went down out of control. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.